If you have a Colorado 600, you've more than likely had a failure of the USB connector. Excuse me. What happens is the outer ring of that connector, where it connects to the circuit board, actually breaks and it loses its electrical connection. So I've had this apart a couple times. It's been a while, but I'll do the best I can to show you how to do it and what you need to fix to make it work. So, of course, first thing you have to do is remove the battery cover. I don't know if it's necessary to remove the batteries, but I will, because we all know how much this unit likes batteries. The tool you want to have for removing these 6 screws is a T5. I don't know if it's an Allen wrench or a star. It looks like it's a Torx, T5 Torx. I don't have one, but I've got a little Allen wrench screwdriver that's 1.3, it must be millimeters, and or 0.05 inches. And so that works on here. It doesn't strip the heads out. And I've already started to loosen them. So let's take those out. The last time I had to take this apart, I realized after I had it apart that I should have done the video then, but I did a video of putting it back together with the description of how I had it apart. That was going to suffice until I realized I had to do it again because I didn't actually get the job done. So when you get the back cover off, you'll see the ribbon connector that goes from the back to the front. And so you want to release that ribbon connector. So this little flat piece on the ribbon connector, you just raise it up a little bit and it releases the pressure and the ribbon connector can come out. So you can get that out of your way because all the work to be done is in this half. The next challenge is to get, the hardest part of this actually is getting this circuit board out. And I've got 2 little screwdrivers, and I'm gonna, if I recall, we have to do this from the middle. This rubber seal, I'm trying to do this without my glasses because my vision's not the best. So we want to get in here just above, zoom up here on this, just above that screw boss. And I think my second screwdriver is a little big. Just got to kind of work it out. I've tried actually taking this stuff out, and that's not really doable. So I'm going to pause this for a second, and I'm going to work on that, and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so I guess I was right. So you come in here with this, and I'm able to actually loosen that up. I'm going to use the same screwdriver on opposite sides. Come in, kind of work it. Trying to be careful not to break something. But as you can see, this, I was at first thinking that this black plastic boss was staying with the housing. It's not. It comes with a circuit board. So that gives you a better idea what needs to move and what doesn't. So if you need to apply pressure to the boss instead, I'm going to be risky here and try using the trusty Gerber and pulling on that a little bit with the pliers. Might be dangerous. I might break something. I don't like the feel of that, so I'm not going to do that. Let me try working it from this side a little bit again. Incidentally, this ribbon connector can come off too. Let's do that while I'm thinking about how I'm going to do that thing. That comes out. That comes up, and that's free. If we need to, this plug can come off. I don't remember if that does or not, so I'm going to skip that for now. The piece we're looking for is at the base of this down in here, so I might need to pull that off, but I'll keep going. We'll see what happens. I do remember that this whole thing has to come out though. Oh, you saw the side flex a little bit? That's what did it. So now We've got that. I'm certainly no professional here, so go ahead and try this at home. Okay, it's starting to come. I can pry it up a little bit on the corners. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove this one too. So again, you just slide that guy up and pull that out. So now we should be fairly free of that. Feels like it's sticking on something still. I don't know what that would be. Let's just keep trying. Oh, see down here, there's a ribbon cable that goes to the display. We apparently can't raise it up from the back. We got to raise it up from the front, which means I do have to pull that one out. Sorry if this isn't focusing. I'm worried about more worried about what I'm doing than I am about the camera. All right, that doesn't want to come out, so I'm gonna. Seems like perhaps the display can come with this. Yeah, there we go. So I went in from the top and I pulled the corner of the display up there. So now it's loose. I can come in down here. Actually, let me try the same on the opposite side. Kind of work the screwdriver down in there. Pop it up. I think it went. Oops, I'm not holding it in front of the camera. Sorry about that. Oh, here's what happens then. Is so it comes out this way. And the only thing connecting me is the white and the black wires. I'm just going to go ahead and leave those on there for now, and it looks like that. So now I have to remember what I did next. I'm going to pause. Okay, so it looks like I want this white wire off, so I'm going to try to get under the corner of it. There we go. That's just a plug onto that upper connection. The black wire can't be removed, so we're just going to leave that. I believe that goes to the antenna. And the ribbon connector here, I should have pulled it off of that one instead of the other one, but I'm going to leave it for now to see what happens. We got a couple of screws here, and my recollection is that there's a circuit board in there that needs to go out the top, so you can get to that, because obviously it can't come out the bottom based on what I see here. So that doesn't make sense entirely either. I'm going to pause. Alright, so I just went back and looked at my disassembly video, and I learned a few things that I had forgotten. Actually, the reason you have to take this board out in the first place is so you can get to those two screws, because this black top has to come off. Then that assembly pops out from there. So we're going to do that. Back to this, by the way, is the ideal one is a T6, not a T5. I don't know why I was thinking T5. So we're going to take those two screws out. Different angle here. But this little 1.3 millimeter Allen wrench, 50 thousandths, works just fine. 0.050 inches. Get those screws out of there. Oh, look, it's a magnet. That's cool. All right, so now that's off. The top cover, I think it just comes off. Yeah. Just do it carefully. You'll see the ribbon cable is going to come with it. That on top, that little tin can, that's an antenna. When you reassemble this, because I'm not going to record that going back together, but what it looks like I did is I straightened this out, and then I fished it down through while I went over the top of the antenna. So we got, oh, that's right, we don't need that, we need this. So what we have to do is remove that little guy, and it looks like we just push it out. It's a little snug because the waterproof connection is at the base of that. I'm just gonna give it a little push. I'm sorry, I'm pushing the wrong way. Give it a little. Let's get this back out of the way here without damaging the wires. Right. So I am just gonna try pushing this whole thing. I'm hoping that little connector doesn't have to. It actually does, doesn't it? Okay, so when I did this last time, I pulled too hard and I broke this little thing off, which doesn't, not the end of the world because I can put it back on, but it actually, whoops, see, that's what happens. But I can take this out. I'm going to lay this at that angle. I'm going to get this little piece out of there. Oops, that's good on a circuit board, isn't it? So that thing, I'll be able to push that back in when I'm done. So I should just remove that one in the first place. All right, so now I'm gonna, that's a little circuit board in there, I'm gonna push actually right on the antenna connection, and that pops right out. Let's just move that out of the way. So this is the bad boy. I don't know if it's focusing or not. The outside housing of this connects, it solders up to that connection on the board, but it also has a tendency to break away from the circuit board. So I'm going to go attempt to see what I can do with this. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, it looks like my camera can't focus closer than this, so I'll point out a few things, then I'm going to show you under the microscope where I can't point and hold the camera at the same time. So this thing, this outer housing actually, if it's broken, it pops off like that. Excuse me. And of course that's the problem. There are solder connections on both the right and the left that broke in this case, and of course broke the connection to the circuit. If you look on the back, and I'll flip it up on the under the microscope in a minute, the connection is here and here, so, and there's a bridge across there, a trace. So if either one of those connections is intact, the thing should work just fine. I don't know if I was holding it in the camera, I'll do that again. It's right there. If either one of those connections is intact, the thing should work just fine. So both of those solder connections act as electrical connections as well as physical connections for this outer housing of the USB port. But that those keep breaking away is the problem. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to, I think I'm actually going to super glue it down underneath those pads because it looks like it ripped away part of the circuit board. I'll bring it in close just in case it does focus. I'm going to attempt to super glue it down and then reconnect those solder points. I tried epoxy before, that didn't work. I tried last time just more solder, that didn't work either. I'm also considering a flexible connection, a little ribbon of copper or something, so if it does break away, it still maintains contact. So I'm going to pause the camera and I'm going to see what I can do with it. Okay, so after giving this a look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some super glue. I've got it's gap filling 5 to 15 second cure, so it'll give me a little time to get everything in place. I'm going to throw just a little drop on the two pads where it broke free from the circuit board, but I'm also going to put a little dab around the base of the housing here, where the housing joins up here and here. In particular here, this looks like a good surface. I'm going to throw some super glue around that to try to hold that whole thing down a little better. And then I'll solder that thing back up. All right, the super glue operation is done. A couple things to note. Instead of trying to put a drop of super glue on this right from the bottle, that's more than you really need. So what I did was I put a big drop out on a piece of paper or cardboard, then use a toothpick so you can dab into it and place the super glue where you want it. Also note that if you decide to use an epoxy or something, be careful going around the outside of this, because this space needs to kind of be clear for this all to fit into the seal in the main housing to keep it waterproof. If you gunk that up, it won't assemble properly. So I'm going to go work on the solder for this, and we'll see about getting it back together. Alright, I was successful at bridging the copper junction on both the left and the right. I added a little bit of solder, this really fine solder to help give me a little more to work with. Note that the housing is going to get hot while you're doing it. If you can clamp this in a little vise while you're doing that, that would be helpful. I didn't, and it added some challenges to me. That's all I can think of, and so be really gentle when you plug in your USB on this. Hopefully this will last more than a few uses. Alright, we're going to attempt to put this back together. Going backwards, you have to push this in from the front. No orientation. The flat thing goes to the left. Push it down, get it snug. It looks good. I think I can put the cover on before I do the ribbon connector from there. So what I did the first time is I flattened that a little bit, flattened that ribbon cable out a little bit over the antenna through the woods. Okay, it doesn't like that, so I'm going to flatten it out some more. Alright, that's a little better. So over the antenna, through the opening, being really careful to not upset anything that you already did. That should seat in there nicely like that. Then put the screws down there. Those two there. Those little tiny ones. Snug those up. Sorry about my cold. A lot of that going around these days. Okay, and then that's still out of the way. I want to connect this one back up, and if I remember right, that was, yeah, it had to be that way. Okay, so that was that way. So I'm gonna push that in first. Oh, that's gonna be a challenge. You don't need to see me do all that, but you would push that ribbon cable in, then slide the little brown thing back down to tighten it up. Okay, I finished wrestling that together. Now we're gonna flip the main board back into place. Just spin it around. Kind of find where it all goes. Pull everything out of the way. Feels like it's stuck on something, so I'm just trying to be careful. Oh yeah, this rubber seal. See this rubber seal? Those flaps get in the way. You gotta kind of pull that back. So I'll work that side and I'll come around to the other side. There we go. Oh, the other side's in the way too. Okay. Kind of gently work it back down into place without that thing getting, that thing really wants to go in there. I don't want it to. Alright, so there we go. Gotta work it back down into place. Feels like I'm rocking on something. There we go. One side went. Both sides went. I hope that wasn't bad. Okay. So then I can put that rubber flaps back into place. I can put this ribbon connector on the left. I guess I'll use this one. Doesn't look like it's in all the way. There we go, and then just pop the brown thing down. That locks it in. Then we're going to get the antenna connector here, if I can. Some little pliers might actually be better here, but let's see what I can do with the wrong tools. Oh, almost had it. That's it. If you don't get that one, if you never use an external antenna, it's probably not a big deal. So the last one is that. Back into there, it goes in easy enough. Reset the lock. And that looks like that's all of it. No extra pieces. Oh yeah, we got this. We have the one ribbon connector from the back side. So we're going to pop that in and push that down. That's good. Reconnect. Reconnect your screws, put your batteries in, and you should be good to go. Good luck.